military members, and we covered this on Human Events Daily just today, that there's an E4 in the Air Force saying, look, I don't want to take this. I'm about to be kicked out. I've signed up. I've gone through all my training. Here are my qualifications. Can you guys help me find a job? Right? So we're purging our military on the basis of this. Think about who we're purging, by the way, our healthcare workers. So many, they're in New York State, they're talking about bringing in the National Guard to backfill healthcare workers. I'm sorry. I thought this whole thing was supposed to be help. Remember, 2 weeks to stop the spread, right? Lower the curve so that we can help ICUs because of the capacity and because of bringing the burden down on healthcare workers. If this is about health, why are you firing the healthcare workers?
Where do you grade this thing at the moment? I mean, just as we're starting this, Biden just said that 98% of us have to be vaccinated, otherwise we'll never get back to normal. As he was getting his booster shot from the vaccine that he said, if you got in the first place, that, you know, we'd all be okay with.
Yeah, that's actually right. And I'll break a little news on here, and I'll hold this back from from Twitter and everything else before we can do this, because actually just as you and I were preparing to get on here in the pre-show, I got a text in from someone who is a currently serving U.S. official at the White House, who said that statement, that number, that 98% came from a briefing from Dr. Fauci about a week ago that was being had. And my question is, if I would go back to that briefing, and I'll respond to them after this and say, was that talking about herd immunity? Because I remember the last time I heard this, herd immunity was like 75, 80% was the idea. And that also that herd immunity should include people like myself who have natural immunity, because I had real COVID. I had like knocked me on my butt. I'm eating Vietnamese pho for a week and watching like bad TV shows because I'm just like half tired, half asleep the whole time. I mean, it sucked. Like, it's definitely not the flu, right? But I ate pho and a bunch of like Sprite, and I'm fine, right? I'm totally fine. It's like a year ago. And so I've still yet to have somebody come to me and make the convincing argument as to why natural immunity shouldn't count, right? And I think there's a huge portion of the population that is also wondering about this. Plus, you also used to have, and Glenn Greenwald talked about this, that the ACLU used to be one of the leading organizations talking against vaccine mandates, because they actually pointed out that pushing vaccine mandates from a higher level actually drives vaccine hesitancy. Because what is it, right? It's the hammer, not the hammer, not the carrot, right? It's you're demanding people do it, so you're going to initiate. There's going to be a certain number of people that say, "Well, I'm not going to do it just because you say I have to. Why should I?" Right? And it's of course the U.S. government hasn't ever done anything, Dave, that would call into question their trustworthiness and their veracity with the American people.
I've never heard of anything. I don't know what you could possibly.
No, I couldn't possibly think of.
But are you somewhat shocked that if we were to question any of this stuff, like I'm very aware of this on Twitter, if we're to question the veracity of the vaccine, whether it's working or not, actually, as you know, because I think you were probably the first guy I texted the day before I went off the grid last day of July.
What was the tweet again? What was the tweet?
Well, in essence, I said that vaccine mandates are coming and they don't want you to know that. And I was banned from Twitter. Twitter later said it was an error, but I'm pretty sure I got that one right. But then this is like a month ago, right? This is hilarious. It was July 31st, yeah.
A couple months ago, okay. So yeah, give or take a month.
Yeah.
So you tweet out that you think essentially it looks like vaccine mandates are coming, banned on Twitter, right? Right, locked out. Was it 12 hours?
12 hours, and then I had to delete the tweet. Otherwise, they put you in perpetual with no answer as to when you might come back. If you refuse to delete
they put you in the penalty box for 12 hours. Then they make you take the tweet down, which by the way, we're talking about communism in the book, but this is in Mao's China, the idea of self-incrimination, right, is big, right? They could delete the tweet for you. Right. I always bring this up with people. They could delete the tweet for you, but as part of your struggle session, you have to admit your crime. You have to admit your thought crime. You have to admit, I was a capitalist. I was an exploitative landlord. I spoke out against the Great Leap Forward, right? You have to admit that. And only if you believe your struggle session, this is the key. People don't understand, they use that phrase struggle session. You're not struggling against the people. You're struggling against your past self. And the idea is that you're purifying yourself into the new ideology. So I always think about that when they make you delete the tweet yourself. There's something very insidious about that, and the fact that it actually is a form of making you incriminate your own thoughts and your own words. But the fact is that you said this was coming, and I remember the tweet, the way you had worded it was like, you think this is coming, not like, I can prove this is coming. And yet, here we are talking about 98% people are about to be kicked out of the military. There's that, the great account Libs of TikTok has, and they're not just doing Libs anymore. It's really just sort of like a TikTok news kind of site now. And military members, and we covered this on Human Events Daily just today, that there's an E4 in the Air Force saying, look, I don't want to take this. I'm about to be kicked out. I've signed up. I've gone through all my training. Here are my qualifications. Can you guys help me find a job? Right. So we're purging our military on the basis of this. Think about who we're purging, by the way, our healthcare workers. So many, they're in New York State, they're talking about bringing in the National Guard to backfill healthcare workers. I'm sorry. I thought this whole thing was supposed to be help. Remember, 2 weeks to stop the spread, right? Lower the curve so that we can help ICUs because of the capacity and because of bringing the burden down on healthcare workers. If this is about health, why are you firing the healthcare workers?
Right. So it literally, we went, in a year and a half, we went from 2 weeks to flatten the curve to we're firing nurses in the name of health, which I don't know that we've had any sort of mass outbreak by nurses or within our military or anything like that. But what do you think this really gets to, in that it's not stopping? I mean, this is what I'm trying to explain to people. It doesn't matter if everyone's vaccinated or everyone stays home or everyone wears masks. The governments, and I mean governments, not just ours, but Australia, Canada. I mean, we're just watching Western governments commit hara-kiri and take down their people at the same time. That's what it seems like to me, that they're just loving rampaging through everyone's rights, and very few of us are doing anything. This
will stop when the citizenry decides it should stop. Russ Dohat in the New York Times, and I don't really cite the New York Times very often, but he had a pretty provocative headline on an op-ed about a week ago, and he said, what if COVID was 10 times more deadly, right? What if COVID was 10 times more deadly? And I'm like, well, if COVID was 10 times more deadly, then I'd probably be on board with a lot of this stuff, right? I think that would make sense.
Don't give him any good ideas, Jack.
No, but here's what I'm getting at. Here's what I'm getting at, because I'm not, I want to make a point, is that we have a situation where we know that it's not. We know that there are people, look, it's been what, a year and a half. I was one of the first people that said, all the way back January 2020, let's add China to the travel ban. We can't allow those flights to come in. Why are we still doing this? We can see what's going on in Wuhan. We can see they're trying to shut it down. Just stop the flights. Just do it. Just stop the flights. We were doing podcasts about it back then. They're like, oh, you're crazy, you're xenophobic, et cetera, et cetera. I said, no, it's about a virus that comes from there. I don't care that it is there, but it is. To deal with it. We know everything that's come out since then about that and the lab and what they don't want us to know, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the key thing in this is that you have a situation now where people are going to say, look, we can look at this as independent, critical thinking individuals and know that, okay, people with comorbidities, you got to take care of them. People who are seniors, right, they're higher at risk, you got to take care of them. People who have the immunodeficiency. I was just down in Florida meeting with a friend of mine who had gone through, he's just getting over throat cancer, right? He's walks around double masked all the time. That makes sense, right? Because he gets that, he's done. He's going to be wiped out. Like, his system will not be able to handle that, right? That makes sense for his position. But the idea that we are going to allow government to have all this power, they're never going to give it away. And, there are some people who said, well, I think this is just, it's a one-time thing. It's got, no.
Yeah.
Medical tyranny is the future, right? This is never going to stop because medicine in our technology, our biotechnology is only getting better and better. Our government systems are only becoming more and more advanced. You're seeing the union now of government with Silicon Valley. So with technology, you tie in the biomedical aspect of that. And look, if you ever watched that movie Gattaca from 1997,
it's happening, man.
5 years ago, I think it was Andrew Nichols and Ethan Hawke and Jude Law and Uma Thurman, and I think they just nailed it. You have two classes of people. You have the valids and the invalids, and we are rapidly, very rapidly running to a society like that.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.